there is a new phrase in Mumbai. I
Mm.
know, I'm sure you heard it.
Mm.
We have direct benefit transfer, and then we have targeted tax transfer. So
Target.
officers are shifted, officers are appointed. The tax department is an unholy mess, and I don't know if this government or any government can fix it. I mean, I'm compelled to sort of agree with Dr. Subramaniam Swamy that maybe the income tax should be just abolished. It might remove one large chunk of corruption from the country.
Yeah, but
Mohan,
yes,
I would like to
yes.
ask some question. You put very rightly that there is a time, this year is the only time, or second year of this government is the only time where we can do something very important, rigorous implementation of it. As a person who is quite aggressive and vocal about your support to the current establishment, and can you tell us in simple language 5 steps which he should take, which I can understand, an ordinary person can understand, not in the language in which most of the Babus speak.
Okay, let me say this. First important thing is get the trust of the income taxpayer by saying within 30 days after filing your return, you'll get your tax refund. No questions asked. The IRS in America does it. They send you the check. They don't complete the assessment. Then they pick up for audits. And if you cheat, you go to jail. So very clear. Don't hold it up for 1 year and 2 years. That's one. Second, don't give a target for the tax collector. Because you give a target for the tax collector, he will call you, say, I got a target. I'm going to add 500 crores to your income. And you pay. Then he say, go and appeal and you win. He doesn't care. So don't give a target to the tax collector. Jaswant Singh didn't do that. Jaswant Singh was the only finance minister I know for the last 25 years who didn't give a target and tax collection went up. The third thing what I will do is, I will look at the track record of all the assessing officer and see whether their assessments have been overturned in the tribunal, in the High Court, and the Supreme Court, and I'll take action against them. I'll put it in their confidential reports that this person does perverse assessments, and I will take a disciplinary action. That's the third thing that I will do. And the fourth thing I will do is, I will reduce the appeals that I do. So I will respect the decision of the tribunal. I'll respect the decision of the High Court and the Supreme Court that done it. But for the Supreme Court, I think the limit is now 5 crores. Why can't we make it 100 crores? Listen to the High Court. Today, Prabhuji, what happens? The commissioner takes 2 years, tribunal 3 years, High Court some 8 to 10 years, Supreme Court 5 years. It's 15 to 20 years. And the tax officer would have retired. For example, you've seen this perverse retrospective amendment for the Vodafone case. It was wrong. It is illegal. Supreme Court has said in the earlier case you can't do it. They still haven't got relief. And now Kane is in trouble because they appelled Kane. This is gross injustice. You cannot do it in a civilized country. Now at Infosys, I filed tax returns in 40 countries. But let me tell you, India is by far at the bottom because this department is out of control. They can do what they want. And India is the only country in the world where the assessment system is broken and the tax appeal system is broken. Both are broken. The justice system is broken and the appeals and the assessment system is broken. If both are broken, you have no hope. Our only hope is Prime Minister will do something by doing these 5 things. If he's able to do all these things, I think
this
we
is
can
only
see
income
a sea
tax
change.
related. I'm talking about a macro level.
I understand. I understand.
Tell us 5 different steps. For example, my suggestion would be abolish IAS from this country at all. There's no need for IAS officers. Do you agree or
You're
not?
very radical. You're very radical.
Do you agree or not?
No. I technically agree with you, but I think whether it's feasible.
Professional like you can join the government as secretaries or advisor or in cabinet, like Trump
Exactly.
chooses his own person. Why not that kind of official? You have 30 secretaries of the government of India who are chosen by the Prime Minister.
Yes, it's like the president of the United States does it. Prabhuji, one important thing Trump has done. He has cut 30% of regulations.
Administrative reform this country have not started because of that.
Agreed.
Things are
I agree.
right. First commission was appointed by Morarji Desai. He addresses the first Administrative Reforms Commission. That report is still lying after 50 years. And after that, Vippa Moily was appointed, his report has nobody has read it.
Nobody has read it.
I want your reaction. How come the number of secretaries to the government of India goes up by 10% every year?
Because for the simple reason of political leaders are not in control of the country. You see, in most countries, the political leaders dictate policy. Here, who dictates policy is the bureaucrats. And the ministers are at the mercy of the bureaucrat. Let's be honest about it. Look at all the ministers in the NDA, barring Prime Minister, barring 4 or 5 ministers. Are the others able to push the secretaries to get what they want? They're not able to get. I'll tell you a story. We went to Jaswant Singh about the Bangalore airport. Narayan Mantri went there. The secretary came and told him, no, this can't be done. He told him, you write whatever nonsense you want in the file, I'll overrule you. I want to do it. And he did it. And that's the way we need the political leaders to act. Because the bureaucrats are famous for making sure that creating the status quo and creating more power for themselves. If you look at the Income Tax Act, Prabhuji, you'll find the last 5 years, the tax officers have got more powers than they had earlier. Instead of reducing the power, they got more powers. They can arrest you. They can do what they want. They don't have to go to court to get a warrant. Now we're all living in fear, and they've gone beyond control. So now we have a case where the tax officials want to write policy. You saw the IRS officer writing policy and issuing for public comments as if they are the legitimate government. So I think that Prime Minister knows all this. He knows all this. I'm sure he knows all this. He's been the Chief Minister. And he has to break the Guardian knot. He has to make sure that the power lies the political executives. They take the decisions. The bureaucrats tell them out. And they have to be very clear what has to be done. They have their manifesto. They have to do it.
They have a political they've had a political opportunity for now 5 years. Earlier they were ruling on 19 or 20 states. Even now they're ruling in 15 states. They've got 300 MPs, I think over 2,000 MLAs. The Prime Minister was the first person to speak of Team India after Nehru. Yeah. And now this is the opportunity to actually to actualize that idea of Team India.
Agree.
And this is simply baffling, mystifying as to why, despite having power in 15 states, you can't make the second generation reforms happen.
You know, Shankar, the government does not have a job report, and the CMI is giving a job report. The CMI job report is a mystery. I don't know how unemployment can go up from some 7% to 26% in 1 week or 2 weeks, and how is able to collect the data to say it is 26%, then suddenly comes to 22%, goes 27%. It could be
in the absence of alternate
exactly. Now
the government doesn't have anything.
You got MOSPI, you got the Provident Fund, data, the ESI data where people pay a subscription. That's for the formal employment. You can use big data to find out the informal employment. They don't even make any attempts. I worked with Pulak Ghosh and Soumya Ghosh for 3 years in NDA1, along with Nupendra Mishra and the PMO to create the reports. And now the PF is giving out a monthly report. At least something is coming out. But the MOSPI just refused to adopt it and accept it. They want to go by surveys, those thin surveys all over, based upon a 30-year-old model, when big data, databases, everything's available. Do you know, Shankar, that don't you know the total number of government employees in the country? State and central government. State and central government employ 2.5 crore people. You know that? 2.5 crore into 4.
You know, Mohan, you know about education and educational institutions. I have been asking governments in India, and Prabhu knows this since Vajpayee's time. For 20 years, I've been trying to figure out how many graduates actually pass out of India. The exact number. You will only get an enrollment figure. You will never get a pass figure.
No, there is 90 lakhs graduate every year. The figure is available. It's come out in the last 3 years, Shankar. I'll send it to you. I made a study. It's called the Human Capital Report. They got it. I don't know whether it's correct, but 90 lakhs is the figure.
That's the point. We all have our estimations, but Government of India should be able to tell you how many commerce graduates, how many arts graduates, how many science graduates.
Shankar, you know this. If you are the leader and you tell your people below that I want data, very soon the culture will change. Now tell me, which minister, when he signs on the file, said, I want data, give me the data, give me this data, give me that. I know Prime Minister asked that because I have dealt with some issues, but other ministers, we should ask them, give the data. Now we should be a data-driven country. We should have a year-wise calendar for all data to be released, and the data has to be authenticated. It has to come on databases, not the surveys. And the surveys which they do are ridiculous because, like this labor survey which is being done, it is being done based upon an old metric which is 30 years old. They're not revised it. Because Dr. Pulak Ghosh had a look at that.
Mohan and Shankar, we'll go into little more broader well. We have gone into very micro thing.
Yeah.
But I'm suggesting you from 91 onwards to 2020, now to almost 9 plus 29 years, you had started a model, reverse economic reform, which all of you at that time and now also support. That was basically supply-led model reforms. that you created more and more and more and more supply, and services sector was the beneficiary of that supply chain.
Yes.
And 55%, India is the only underdeveloped or developed country which has 55% of GDP coming from services sector, which was the imbalance in the economy with no economics taught us when we were studying economics. We were told that there are certain stages of growth from the agriculture to tertiary. Tertiary is the last one. So what I'm saying now, that was supply-led mess. Now in the COVID, its experience is very clear, because the supply is only in terms of services constitute 55% or 57% of the GDP. And it is vanishing in the air. The services is a sector which is not visible sector. So therefore, our model is now the time is where you have to demand-led model or not. We ignore agriculture. There were no reforms in agriculture. Manufacturing was not giving any impetus. Everybody is getting tax concession from starting more airlines, more of services, technology. That was good. I am not going against them. But there was a course correction. The supply chain, India is now suffering because you are saying we are not selling scooters. But why did you establish scooters which can't be sold 3 years later? I am not selling car. Who asked you to have a supply chain which is not incommensurate with the rising income of the lower middle class? How many people can buy cars? You have added so much of capacity. Same people were replacing car after car. No, people were not buying. Excess capacity was created to sustain that excess capacity supply chain. All the reforms was created. Tax write-off, tax concession, 1,25,000 crores of income tax concession was given. Don't you think the money which was gone to sustain an artificial excess supply, money should have gone to created demand so that the supply can also sustain?
Prabhuji, you are perfectly right. The biggest flaw in economic development is we have not promoted labor-intensive industries. Look at what China did after 1978. They opened up agriculture. Then they opened up the areas around the coast for labor-intensive industries, allowed the globe to come and create industries which employed a whole lot of labor. They used the taxes from that to build the supply chain infrastructure. Then they incentivized industry to go into capital stage industry, build a more modern steel plants, build more electronic assembly and sophisticated work, etc. And they graded it out. Now, what have we done? We have gone from stage 1 to stage 3 for services without taking care of labor-intensive industry. Now, our capital-intensive industries are quite fine, but they don't give jobs. We are a labor surplus country. In a labor surplus country, what should you do? Your policy should promote employment. Your policy should support labor-intensive industries. Look at garments. This year, I think Bangladesh was expected to export $50 billion of garments. Now, India's export this year could be maybe 25 billion. You know, when Bangladesh was 1 billion, we were 10 billion. Bangladesh has overtaken us, whereas we are still lagging behind. Why is that? Because you don't have a proper labor policy which is flexible. You are not build the kind of infrastructure that's required. Bangladesh takes our yarn, takes our cloth, stitches, is the largest garment exporter in the world. They got 4.5 million or 5 million employees.
And sells the garments in India.
And sells the garment in India. And they do it much better than anybody else. Why can't we do it? Why can't we have the labor-intensive industries in UP? Why should it be in Bangalore? Why should it be in Delhi? Why should it be in Bombay? Why not in UP? Why not in Bihar, which are labor surplus areas? Now, in the migrant crisis, you're seeing enormous amount of people come from Bihar, UP, Madhya Pradesh, and West Bengal because there are no jobs there. There are no jobs, and they come down south where there are jobs. In the south, there's a shortage of people because we got manufacturing, which is capital intensive. We got a large service industry, and the per capita income is 2,50,000 crores, 50,000 rupees a year. In UP, is 69,000. In Bihar, it's some 49,000 after 70 years. So look at the failure. I agree with you totally. That's why today we need to focus on labor-intensive industries in the labor surplus states to take care of people who are coming off the land. We need surpluses for the farmer by connecting the farmer to the markets to making sure that he gets the money to improve the quality of life. And like you said, Prabhuji, this will improve the demand. This will improve the demand because when people get decent wages, they have some surpluses, they will consume, and the demand will come up. So I think we need a major change in our policy.
Mohan,
yes, sir.
Some of the people may not like it bringing the Nehru name again here in this concept, but you are thinking about it. Let the industry go to UP, let it go to there. It means Jawaharlal Nehru model of having big industry in the jungles of Bhilai and whatever. that policy should be adopted. Why people are allowed to open industry next to Bombay, next to Chennai, next to Delhi, next to this place? Why don't you follow the Nehruvian model of shifting the all big industry where there's no airport at least? Let the airport be built like Jamshedpur. Tata's built the airport there and started.
You see,
therefore, why don't you create new industrial hub rather than allowing everybody to live next to the bungalow and have an industry also next to 5 kilometers away from there?
see, what I would do is I would declare 500 districts of this country, which are the poor districts, close to the big cities, as SC does, and give them a 10-year tax holiday for a specified list of industries, labor-intensive industries. I would do that. I would do that because, I will incentivize labor. I want more jobs. I want more jobs. Now, look at the SEZ policy, Prabhuji. What is the SEZ policy? You go take a 100-acre, you become an SEZ. Why can't you follow the China policy of having an entire district? Take the entire
SEZ is
district.
closed now, yeah. After that, 1 acre became the SEZ.
1 acre become an SEZ. Now, you see, we need to think. We need to think very differently. See, our problem is we are a labor surplus country. We are a capital short country. India is the only country in the world where under the Income Tax Act, we incentivize capital intensity, not labor intensity. If you employ thousands of people, there are no tax breaks. But if you put plant and machinery, you get huge amounts of depreciation, investment allowance. Why are we incentivizing capital when we have to incentivize labor? Because for us, the biggest problem is labor surplus. And the labor surplus has to be done. But I would put in an incentive program to get them to the labor surplus industries. And then we will be competitive globally because the labor cost will be lower than having a labor cost. Now, if somebody comes from UP to Delhi, he gets 15,000 rupees. Can he live properly? He lives in the streets, no water. He doesn't have a house. He falls sick, no money. He doesn't have adequate savings, right? Now, if he gets 10,000 rupees in a small town, in the 5,000 census towns of this country, what will happen? Now, look at our lopsided policy. Our urbanization is only 40%. That's what the World Bank data says, only 40%. China is about 59%. The world is 53%. Why can't we invest money in the 5,000, 6,000 small census towns and create hubs where people can come from the neighboring villages and give them good infrastructure to have labor-intensive industries?
Mohan, a lot of these ideas were there in the 2014 manifesto, the building of 100 new cities, Make in India, the proposal to free people from tax harassment,
terrorism,
and all of that. Over a period of time, I think, Václav Havel had said that, campaign is poetry, actual ruling is prose. And it is very difficult. One of the attendees now who's attending the Zoomcast just now has sort of made a point that is interesting, and he, of course, wants this to be more interactive. But his question leads us to what I can say, that do you think the pandemic and the crisis that surrounds India is only my first book, Accidental India, when I wrote, that all change came only through crisis, and it was Narasimha Rao who was the architect of reforms, not Manmohan Singh. So here, does this crisis, does it look to you like that India will sort of has an opportunity to leapfrog or pole vault to the next, a theoretical possibility to practical assessment?
Well, I would give it maybe a 65-35 chance because of Prime Minister Modi. Because after he made the big speech, yesterday he made the big speech, 20 lakh crore, quantum leap and all that. He has understood the problem. He's been a chief minister. He knows things on the ground. And he's the best bet to make it happen. Without him, it's not going to happen. There is no leader in this country who can make it happen. Either in the BJP or in any other political party, there's nobody else who can make it happen. Nobody else who can have that big vision and the will and the strength, political strength to push things down and take unpopular decisions. Like Narasimha Rao took those decisions at time of crisis. There is a crisis. It's the best opportunity for him to steamroll it and take all the decisions. Yes, in India, one is taken some decision like the IBC, the GST, and everything. He pushed it through. GST, you know how it worked. The people said it was not perfect, but he got it through. I mean, in India, like you said, a crisis. I hope it happens. I'll put my money on him because there's no other option. He's the best bet, and he's spoken about it yesterday. And I hope that they pull it through. So we have to wait for the next 3 or 4 days for the finance minister to tell us. What is to do, Prabhuji? Prabhuji, we have
No,
all
I
lived
think
in
you are,
hope.
yes, I have one thing in common with you, that only Prime Minister Modi can do it. Nobody can
Yes.
do it.
Nobody can do
And
it.
all the, he's known for many things which he has done. He has given many original ideas to the country. But on economic ideas, I am still waiting to hear from him that this is what, like as you rightly pointed, Narasimha Rao was remembered for economic reform. Vajpayee would be remembered for connectivity, because he made the connectivity of India possible. And Modi made India self-confident in terms that we are a global leader now. But beyond that, we have to hear from him one big idea. Hey, Mr. Modi, who pulled out India out of pandemic and made it a global economic power. Because he has promised so many things. By 2024, our income will double, farmers' income will double, we'll have so many crores of houses, which may not happen now, but he has to deliver. And he's a man who can deliver if he wants to.
Yeah.
Because next election, his perception is very good. Now the time has come for him to perform through his team, and his team is not performing. He is the only leader. He can get rid of the non-performers and give us India new leaders.
Yes. For example, in NDA-1, he cleaned up India, right? He cleaned up India substantially. The IBC and his NPA, he cleaned up India, right? He put corruption in the back seat.
There's less corruption now. There's less corruption now.
Less corruption now. Now is the time to grow India. Because you have cleaned up India, you have to grow India. And for growth India, this is a perfect time, a crisis, like Shankar said, a crisis. In a crisis, you can push through decisions very easily. And he has given the clarion call. So we have to wait and see. And we have to push. We have to work with him to make it happen. But like you said, he's the best for the future. Just imagine, Prabhuji, if Prime Minister Modi is not there, which other leader can take India forward? Does anybody have a view of the future? I mean, what a sad country, isn't it? Shankar, what a sad country.
I think we should wrap this Zoomcast on that note, that there is Corona and then there is Tina. And there is no alternative, seems to be the recurrent theme in Indian.
There's a Tima. There's a Tima. There's no alternative to Modi.
Modi is the alternative now.
Modi is the alternative.
Tima is the factor now.
But Shankar, Prabhuji, it's so remarkable the kind of support Prime Minister Modi has. Today I was seeing a video. 2 young people are going somewhere, I think from Delhi to Bihar or something. They walk 700 kilometers, saying हमको तंग नहीं करना चाहते मोदी जी को, वो देश को they want to देश को बचाएंगे. Look at that thing. As ordinary people, they're suffering, but they're saying we don't want to trouble him. We don't blame him. Look at that. What kind of support? It's unbelievable. I don't think Indira Gandhi had that kind of support. I don't know. You'll know better.
This is the last time for him that to prove himself. He has proved himself many times, but this is a crisis in which Modi will emerge, hopefully, as a winner again. But he has to prove himself. New ideas have to come. Thank you, Mohan.
Thank you. Thank you, Shankar.
Everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.